Hey guys, it's me Meteor, and welcome to another edition of What is Kirby Canon? Today we're talking about King Dedede. King Dedede is easily the most famous villain of the Kirby series. Even still, it's been a long time since he ever was a true villain, and technically, he's not even a true king. In fact, the only game he was a real villain was in the original Kirby's Dream Land. In that game, he was so greedy, he literally stole all the food in Dreamland. Not just some, all of it. Ever since then, he hasn't been any worse than a huge rival. The only other time he seemed like an antagonist was in Revenge of the King from Superstar Ultra. Even then, it seemed like he was challenging Kirby, rather than truly threatening him. We can see this as he offers Kirby a hammer before the fight, in line with something Meta Knight does. Almost every other time we do face Dedede, it's either because of a horrible misunderstanding, or that he's being controlled by another horrible being. Perhaps even both in Tyranza's case. Funny story about that situation, it caused a clone Suzy made of him to have a fear of a certain insect. Of course, considering Dedede teamed up with Tyranza there to save Kirby, it's more likely referring to Sectonia. On that note, there are other times we see Dedede help as well. When Nightmare attacked, he alone broke the Star Rod into pieces to stop him, and shot Kirby in the air with the Star Rod to chase him. Once it was reassembled, he teamed up with Kirby and Crystal Shards, knowing full well how big of a threat Dark Matter was, especially considering how many times he was controlled by it, and even came along to help in Return to Dreamland and Star Allies. Even though the king has a long-standing grudge against Kirby, we can see Dedede has a good heart and respects Kirby, even if he's too stubborn to admit it. While Dedede may act tough, he really does care for others, especially his Waddle Dees. No matter the game, he seems to be really close to them. At first glance, they may just seem like part of his army, or even his servants. However, he spends time with them personally, like playing chess, or even relaxing over the wall together. In Epic Yarn, he seemed more upset that his Waddle Dees were being harmed than anything else, regardless of how he justifies it. In Revenge of the King, we could even see Dedede having a real conversation with one Waddle Dee in particular, Bandana Waddle Dee. After Kirby defeated the king's defenses, he asked Bandana Dee to go next. After hearing the Waddle Dee's concerns, he cared enough to spare him, even saying "I'm sorry" in his head, possibly knowing it was wrong of him to ask such a thing. Even at the end of the game, after Dedede lost yet again to Kirby, the ones who would comfort him are his own Waddle Dees. They really are like family to him. His relationship with Kirby is another story. The king always seems to view him as his personal rival. Right before the battle in Revenge of the King, however, he states, "Our grudge will be settled at last." Perhaps even he was getting sick of it. Regardless, his rivalry didn't end there. Later, in Kirby Fighters Deluxe, canon or not, if you fight Dedede on very hard, his description states he was looking for a last shot at revenge. Not necessarily that it would be, and it wasn't. In Battle Royale, he literally made a machine that could make Kirby's to try and beat him at his own game. You know, with technical prowess like that, he should really try increasing his defense system on his castle. Anyway, his stubbornness really shines through in this game, as he just doesn't want to give up, no matter how many times he loses. You've got a feel for him though. No matter how he trains, what he uses, he just can't beat Kirby. I mean, come on. Even Bowser beat Mario a couple times. Just recently though, Dedede tried again, but not by himself this time. Instead, he partnered with a close friend, Meta Knight. We never really saw these two interact on a personal level. In Adventure, we know he was one of the friends or underlings he handed one of the Star Rod shards to. Considering he was the last line of defense, perhaps the king even trusted him the most. In Kirby Fighters 2, however, we can see their friendship front and center. The way they combined each other's attacks to amplify the skills of each shows they must have practiced this long beforehand. Even when they fail, you can see them both encourage one another and strengthen themselves to try even harder. It was so cool seeing them interact this way. It's probably one of the most memorable boss battles I've ever come across. Even in the end, when Dedede gives up, Meta Knight was there to give his hand and lift him up. Regardless of how canon these spin-offs were, seeing the personality of the king shine through in them was great to see. It makes you wonder if there ever will be a game where he does manage to best Kirby. Probably not. Anyway, I think we've talked about everything we needed to about King Dedede. See you guys next time.